Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Path of Exile video. In this one, I'm going to talk about a bit of a tier listing for minions moving into 3.24 Necropolis League. Now, it's fair to say that this video is going to be recorded before we got the chance to see an updated path of building and all the re-details of upcoming transfigured gems like the Holy Relic. I want to make this video simply because a lot of people are already asking what I think is going to be the best played minion build moving forward. And I've been asked about this for weeks. We finally got the patch notes, so now I'm going to tell you my current thoughts and just ideas of what I think is going to happen leading 3.24 Necropolis League. Let's crack into it. So let's start with the obvious things that I think a lot of people are interested in finding out about, and that is obviously Summon Raging Spirits. What the hell is going to happen to SRS? So there's two different versions. There's a poison, actually there are three. There's one version that is poison. Fantastic build. The popular version was made by Mates, the written guide I have on the guide hub page that I've made a written guide for. All the links to those are actually in the descriptions down below, so make sure you check those out. All of those guides will all be updated before the league starts. So that's the poison SRS. We have a Guardian Elemental version. I believe myself and Subtractem have the two more commonly played ones on the community. I might be wrong on that, but I do believe that's mine and Sub's builds. Both are fantastic versions of this build, doing absolutely excellently. And then obviously there is the Lightning version, which demands a higher level character to respec into it and a bunch of build enabling uniques to actually play it. Not a big fan of that personally, but it is a very high performing build, though the playstyle is not to my liking. Either way, so what's going to happen to SRS? Well, the nerfs that happened to them was that they will no longer have their melee attack naturally gain 0 up to 38% more damage as it levels. This is a massive nerf to the performance of the SRS. It does not impact any sort of changes to the popcorn version, which is using minion instability, but it does make the build extremely less performing compared to before. How will I then tier list this? I think that in my current iteration of my thoughts is that I would place the SRS around a B+, maybe an A-. 38% multiplicative damage scaling is a massive nerf to the build. I think it's going to work to play, but I believe that there will be much better options. So again, I think we're going to place them at a B+, A-. Again, I'm only human. I might be wrong, but that's my current take on it. Another build that's very popular, people have been asking me about, is actually Mage Skeletons. And Mage Skeletons did get an indirect nerf through the Sniper's Mark changes. This does make me feel like the current plan for the Mage Skeleton, which was already struggling to keep up in terms of performance and requiring a little higher budget to even perform at the same level as most other minion builds, which had them at an A-, really puts the Mage Skeleton down to probably a B or a B+, and still requiring a little bit of investment to keep actually playing at a decent level. Not something I would recommend. Then obviously we have other builds that I think are going to be in similar performance as before, such as Absolution, which I would place somewhere between a B+ or A-, depending on your personal playstyle. We have Chains of Command, very, very fun clearing build that I'm very excited to play again, as it's a very nice clearing build. However, a lot of people are a little scared to play this because if your Animate Guardian dies, you're going to lose all of that. If he's dead, you have nothing. And you have to buy all the gear again to get the build up and running. Because of that little caveat, I always put the Chains of Command a little lower than I think it deserves. I'm going to put it at an A-. Dominating Blow got a slight indirect nerf with the limitations on Headhunter Soul Eater. However, this was a very small nerf and is not something that we very much often notice when playing the build. So I think that Dominating Blow is going to remain on a solid A tier. I think that Golems are going to be at an A+, maybe higher, but I'm going to keep it at an A+ for the simple fact that barely nothing changed in terms of efficiency. The safeguarding version of the Golems, however, is offering very interesting approaches where you can reach 100% immunity to melee damage, because the Golem is going to take that instead. Interesting stuff there. I'll definitely be talking to Kriparian about that. He beat me to it to finding out this, actually. It was really, really cool, and I'm very excited to see what he comes up with it. I'm pretty sure he's going to be diving into that Not something I'm personally super excited about, as there are other things that I'd like to start with. Speaking of starting with, Herald of Purity is such an amazing starter build. It just performs so well, and it's been keeping itself very steadily at an S tier on the tier list, and I'm going to keep it on an S tier this time around. Next up, we got the ranged animate weapon. I prefer the poison variant myself, which is also going to remain at a steady S tier from my current take on the game and with the changes that we've seen. I do believe that the defense is scaling thanks to the minions leeching on the Necromancer is going to be extremely overpowered, and therefore it might be a little better than S tier, but for now, again, without the POB update and everything, I keep it in S tier to be on the safe side of things. Other builds that is very popularly asked about is actually the Skeleton Archer. Now, Skeleton Archer, they got a very small buff, and when I say very small, I mean a whooping 15% more damage. And because of that being 15% multiplicative damage, I'm keen to say that this can actually be a really, really, really good build. Theoretically. So till I can POB it, I'm having troubles tier listing this. I really am. Because my idea is that we would very likely be looking into playing this with the Blessed Rebirth medium cluster duel, going ham with it that way, and having them poison with a proper 100% fist to chaos through Unholy Might and the Wither approach. I'm just super excited about this. Tier listing, I think we're going to have it around a poisonous range animate weapon approach, which is an S tier. Again, theoretically, and that's all I can say, I'm currently placing it at an S tier. Not minus, not plus, just a flat S. Spectres is the build that most people play minions in Path of Exile absolutely adore and love. The problem is the Spectres are going to be very locked behind the idea of the new Wraithlord Bone Circles helmet. This is an item that only drops from tier 17 endgame bosses. Now the problem with this is that it's going to take a while before we get access to it. It might get very expensive, I'm not sure. And not only that, we don't even know if it's going to be an extremely good helmet or not until we know which Spectres we can actually use to summon for it. And those Spectres are going to be limited very hard behind the Embers of the All-Flame from the current league that gives us access to certain minions. Mark himself confirmed on the livestream reveal that we're going to be able to summon something like Brutus, which is actually very, very cool just to listen in and just think about the idea. Just imagine having 9 Spectres of Brutus running around clapping cheeks. Now, that said, I need to see the numbers. I need to see the data mine files on which Spectres we can get access to and how good they are before I can make any sort of decision of where I can tier list this. So I actually do not even have any sort of tier listing on a theoretical level on this because there's too many big question marks on this. So I'm going to leave this at a question mark, I guess. On the other hand, to move up into the tier of the higher end builds that I'm expecting to be blowing everyone away in terms of pure performance and efficiency on all across the board, we're going to start with the good old-fashioned, trusty, reliable Zoomancer. Zoomancer has, ever since we done a time where we released this with the collaboration of Helmbreaker, big shout out to my man, have a phenomenal performance, both on the low end, league starting, medium budget, into high budget. This build has seen north of 500,000 EHP. Absolutely crazy, and the type of limitations Zoomancer brings is just not there. The ceiling of how you can scale it is just not there. You don't see it. Most people will never even come close to reaching any sort of ceiling with the build. It's fantastic. You can play it with 30, you can play it with 40, you can play it with 60, 70, 80 minions on the screen. It all depends on how you like to play it. And I'm very excited to say that the Zoomancer will remain as an S+ tier build. On the other hand, we have another phenomenal guide creator called Previ making a lot of Reaper builds, which I'm not going to tier list in here because I don't think it's going to perform well enough to be in this list. I'd like to focus on the higher end with this video to not avoid wasting you guys' time. And we have, on the other hand, another type of build that Previ is known for, and that is Blink Arrow, Mirror Arrow, also known as BAMA. I think that with the changes to the Necromancer that is separating the sheep from the herd in this little argument of whether or not the Guardian, Necromancer, Juggernaut, or the Pathfinder is the best for the BAMA. And I'm going to settle the score here and say that I firmly believe that the Necromancer will outperform all of them because of the changes that they made, allowing us to have very reliable defensive scaling and offensive scaling at the same time. Knowing Prevy, I'm probably going to get proven wrong one way or another. And if you're watching this Prevy, god damn you, man. Absolutely fantastic, dudes. Keep it coming, dude. I, however, will be working on a Necromancer version for the BAMA, and I'm very excited to say that I'm very likely going to put this at a Poison version, but I'm not sure yet. Could be a Chaos Hit version as well. We'll see as I get closer with theory crafting, but no matter what, BAMA, because of the lack of changes in the patch notes, is going to be an S tier plus performing build. And that's literally the list of builds that I like to mention. There's a couple of lower tier performance ones that I have guides for. And the other bit I mentioned is more about the people asking me about them. But I wanted this video to showcase and talk about the builds that are going to be in the top level of performance of this entire list. There are plenty of other minion builds that does really well. We got Holy Relic, we have Animate Weapon and Self-Reflecting, we have Arakali's Fang, all of which will perform really well. I don't think any of them will perform as good as the Zoomancer and the BAMA, and I think that the Spectres is the one that can compete depending on the information we get from the data mining. So again, I know there's plenty of other minion builds. I wanted to shed some light on the builds that I think will perform better than everything else, and, you know, kind of tier list the builds that I know I have guys that will be updated. Anyways, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and, you know, leave a comment down below what you guys think of which mini build will be the best coming in 3.24. So till next time, as always, stay safe, keep rocking.